The Hazing, also known as Dead Scared, is a 2004 comedic horror film starring Brad Dourif, Nectar Rose, Tiffany Shepis, Perry Shen, and Brooke Burke. A frat and sorority decide to team up and put their prospective pledges through a hazing which involves them being forced to spend the night in Hack House, a notorious mansion where brutal murders took place 60 years prior. Before spending the night, they need to obtain numerous items, including a Necronomicon-esque book from their professor. While attempting to steal the book, they accidentally kill him, but his spirit is not gone, and he comes back to possess and terrorize the pledges. The Hazing was written and directed by Rolfe Kanefsky, who had first come to prominence within the horror genre in 1991 with his film There's Nothing Out There. After being unable to secure financing for a follow-up feature called The Host, he began working with Elaine Saritsky, the producer of the Emmanuelle series of softcore films and television shows popular in the 90s with star Krista Allen. While writing and directing various softcore productions starring the likes of Gabriella Hall, Kira Reed, and Jacqueline Lavelle, Kanefsky was keen to get back to what he really wanted to do, making horror movies. The Hazing was originally conceived as a sequel to the 1981 slasher film Hell Night. Kanefsky pitched one of the co-producers an outline which brought back the original survivors of the film, including Linda Blair's character of Marty. However, production of the film never started due to disagreements with the co-owner of the film rights. In 1996, Scream was released, and its meta-horror stylization became a pop culture sensation. There was now a market for self-aware horror films. Kanefsky revisited his treatment for The Hazing, removed the Hell Night references, and decided to write a horror version of The Breakfast Club, using the archetypal characters of the jock, the computer geek, the blonde bimbo, etc., but subverting audience expectations by making them turn out to be the opposite of what you would think.
Delia?
Yes, Tim, what is it?
I thought that you were,
A bimbo? An airhead? Yeah, I know, it was an act.
Thus began a 7-year journey filled with frustrating starts and stops. In 1997, Kanefsky had convinced Saritsky to bankroll the film by stating he'd write 2 scripts that could be shot on the same set. One a skin flick called Restless Souls, and the other The Hazing. Saritsky agreed and the sets were built, but then he got cold feet due to Scream having not yet been released in Europe at that time. So only Restless Souls was made, and unfortunately the set was torn down before any filming for The Hazing could take place. Fast forward 5 years to 2002, and Saritsky, having no intention to make the movie, offered the script to a new producer who accepted. Initially believing it would take $2 million to make, the producers were set to secure financing from the people behind the hit werewolf film Dog Soldiers. However, that was quickly nixed after the development team decided they wanted to change almost everything about the script, including the setting from Halloween to New Year's Eve, axing the tongue sequence, and bizarrely suggesting that a clown doll should be added to have, let's just say, some backdoor lovin' with the character of Roy.
Now we just kick it for the next 7 hours, and we are all official members of Sigma Xi and Delta Pi.
Whatever shall we do to pass the time?
Zax! I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Ultimately, the producers were able to secure $750,000, and the film was greenlit with an 18-day production schedule. The film was shot on Super 16mm rather than 35mm because the producers were concerned with the costs running over budget due to the numerous effects sequences. The Hazing was the first feature film to be shot at the historic Fitzgerald House in Los Angeles, which was built around 1905 by a piano magnate but had gone into significant disrepair by the time of the film. Kanefsky notes that it was, quote, moldy, dusty, and had cat piss everywhere, unquote, but they threw a fresh coat of paint on it and called it good. Incidentally, the same year that the film was released, 2 people were murdered in the house after it was rented out to a gang for a party. There were numerous struggles during the making of the film, including the producers constantly watering down the script to remove the blood and gore because they felt the film didn't need it and that there wouldn't be adequate time to film it. Additionally, the cinematographer, Tom Calloway, recoiled at Kanefsky's request to make a colorfully lit Suspiria-type aesthetic and decided to use a more natural lighting style. Kanefsky had to compromise much of what he had intended with the film, including additional gore, humor, and jump scares, in order to get it shot within the time and resources he was given. One highlight of the film was the casting. Genre icon Brad Dourif was intrigued by the disturbing sexuality of some of the kills in the script, including a mannequin sequence that didn't quite go the way Kanefsky envisioned. Side tangent, the owners of the Fitzgerald House rented out the space next to it for a birthday party that had a mariachi band playing La Cucaracha incredibly loudly while the actress was trying her best to look terrified. They had to pay the band to stop playing in order to get the scene shot. Dourif wanted the character to have a British accent.
The purity of mind and body that I have devoted my entire life to, that my ancestors have devoted centuries to preserving. You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
as he had just come from playing Wormtongue in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and was about to begin filming as Doc Cochran on HBO's Deadwood. Perry Shen auditioned and was a rising star, having broken out in the film Better Luck Tomorrow. Just a few years later, Shen would memorably play multiple characters in Adam Green's Hatchet franchise. Nectar Rose came on board via the producers who had worked with her before. After some trepidation with the amount of nudity the role required, she eventually agreed if it was done in moderation. Brooke Burke, who had risen to popularity with the travel show Wild On, was looking to branch into film work, and Kanefsky felt she would make a great first victim due to her celebrity status. Burke had previously posed for Playboy in 2001 and agreed to go topless while changing into her genie costume, but production ran way behind schedule due to the amount of paparazzi following her around. Though it would have only taken 5 minutes to shoot, the producers thought that was too much time and refused to let Kanefsky shoot it. Burke later refused to come back for a reshoot, and because international sales required nudity within the first 10 minutes of the film, strippers were hired for the party scene. Tiffany Shepis was friends with Kanefsky and had attempted to get the film made a few years prior. She was always slotted for the role of Marcia, however producers still made her audition 7 times before giving her the role. If you're watching this and a fan of Mrs. Shepis, don't forget to check out our new show, Gorefest at Tiffany's, all about her career here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. The first episode is up now. The costumes that the characters wear are indicative of their personality traits. For example, Roy's dog costume is because he's super horny, Marcia's spacesuit is to show her smarts and ability to take care of herself. Both Nectar Rose and Tiffany Shepis' costumes were handmade, and both, just like the audience, enjoyed how they looked in them. The film has very strong vibes to Night of the Demons and Evil Dead 2, which were intentional. Bruce Campbell's face shows up multiple times in the film, and the character of Doug even name drops the Evil Dead, much to the chagrin of the producers who wanted it cut.
Alright, so what's so special about the book?
Rumors say it's a spell book. Conjure up the dead. You know, turn men into monsters, give girls orgasms, you name it. Evil Dead territory.
It can give orgasms?
These sorts of winking to the audience moments are what makes The Hazing so fun, as the film doesn't take itself seriously.
What do you think? You want to check that out?
Not a chance, you.
I can live with it if you can.
It knows you've seen these movies, and it's happy to admit it's been inspired by them. The most memorable scene in the film, and Kanefsky's personal favorite, is the tongue scene, which involves Roy going down on Delia only to find his tongue stretching to ridiculous limits. This sequence in particular caused consternation from the very beginning, as throughout the film's development, various people were trying to get Kanefsky to change it, cut it, or water it down. Luckily, he was able to shoot it mostly as he had envisioned after a crew member got producers off the set. The main issue that they had was Nectar Rose laughing during it because of how silly it all was. Producers were worried that the film would not receive an R rating and bet Kanefsky that it would have to be cut. They were wrong, and the scene survived the rating process with no changes. The post-production process was long and painful, with producers making a first cut of the film without Kanefsky's input, which chopped all of the humor and charm that gives the film its oomph. Kanefsky did his own cut of the film and convinced producers to screen it to a bunch of college students, which went over extremely well. The producers were upset and felt that the laughs were at the expense of the film rather than with the cheesiness of it. Eventually they relented and the film was released mostly how Kanefsky wanted it to be, and we horror fans are all the better for it in my opinion. About 12 minutes of the film were cut, with the biggest being the opening scene with Brad Dourif and Brooke Burke. However, you can find this extended scene on the DVD release of the film, along with an extended introduction of the characters at the frat house. There are no Blu-ray or 4K releases of the film currently, but Kanefsky is in the process of trying to get that problem rectified. If anyone is listening to this that has any sway on getting this movie released, do it. I'll be the first one to pick it up. There has never been any serious movement on a sequel, but there was an outline for one written around the time that the first film released. The story involved a couple of construction workers who were doing prep to demolish Hack House, who unwittingly reopened the portal to hell. Capps' staff, now in the possession of a fraternity, is used in a new hazing initiation involving pledges seeking out a witch. Multiple demons start possessing and killing everyone, ultimately culminating in a battle on an Indian burial ground. Another idea Kanefsky has is that Marcia and Tim married and had a child, and now that child is 18 and going through a hazing initiation of their own. Again, somebody out there, help get this movie made. If you are into horror films that don't take themselves too seriously and primarily trade in fun and humor with over-the-top violence, The Hazing is a fantastic hidden gem. The cast is awesome, it has some very memorable moments, and more importantly, it has spirit. And I'm not talking the Ghost of Brad Dourif type of spirit, I'm talking about this being a movie made by horror fans for horror fans. It's the little things, like the actors getting Brad Dourif's wild eyebrows when he possesses them, that makes this stand out. Currently the film is available on Tubi, so I highly encourage everyone out there to give it a look. I want to thank the writer and director, Rolfe Kanefsky, for providing much of the information in this video. He was extremely gracious with his time and provided many of the stills and storyboards that I included. Kanefsky has many other horror films as well, including Nightmare Man, Jekyll and Hyde, The Black Room, and Art of the Dead, so check out some of his other stuff as well. Links in the description below. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Forgotten Horrors. Be sure to check out the playlist for all of the other films that we've covered in this series. On the next episode, we head to the country of Namibia to dive into the mythological and disturbing world of Richard Stanley's 1992 film, Dust Devil. See you then!